It's not a perfect organization either. So, Brady.
I was gonna say with some of these things, like this more ties into like the current president situation, but like it seems like he kind of has like absolute power. So like my just thought that I had was that maybe like having a thing where the people can vote whether or not they think impeachment is a good idea, and if most of the people of the United States think it is, then like government like has to take steps to listen.
Okay. I like the idea. It's all the doable of it. Is it doable is the main thing, but that's not what this is about, right?
I think.
Oh, no. Don't worry about that. All right, parting thought, and then we're going to move on.
It's the same problem with a lot of big governmental issues like, probably with climate change, a lot of the organizational issues where for most people's day-to-day life is not really affected by it. And so they'll read something, they'll see something on the news that kind of they see as wrong, and then they'll get kind of flustered for a little bit, but then they'll just kind of go back to their everyday life. It's not until issues become a hourly issue that is all you're always thinking about, that is when people finally start doing things to change it on a larger scale.
100%. 100%. Until it affects you, it's out of sight, out of mind pretty quickly. I like to think that I'm like, I've talked about how before, like after George Floyd was killed, I marched and stuff like that. I didn't do much after that because I didn't really know what to do, and it kind of like moved on. We moved, especially now with like the media cycle, stuff just moves on so fast. Like Trump could punch a baby in the face on CNN and we'll forget about it in a week probably because some 90 other crazy things will happen between now and then. So like, yeah, I guess maybe that on that point, it's really good to like not forget what you're fighting for. Like, yeah, like don't just forget stuff right after it happens. And if you can take action and you're really passionate about it, don't wait till it's just sitting on your doorstep. All right, Vivian, that was awesome. Good discussion, guys. Cool. Give her a hand. All right. So I'm going to go over what we're going to do today.
Can I pause you real quick?
Yes.
All right. I know I got here late. Sorry, I was finishing up retakes. A couple things to remember real quick. Guided readings are the bulk of your content for this unit. We are going to do some lecturing, other activities, but remember, guided readings are your friend. Do the readings. Remember these dates. If you have a conflict because of an AP, IB, or EOC exam, let me know. We'll get you rescheduled. Remember that by Friday, I'm going to have one-pager grades, Copville and ID summative grades, and these retake grades from today, all in Infinite Campus. Folks who did today's retake, was it fair? That's all I care about. Thank you. I'm done.
Okay, cool. So what I want to do real quick is we're going to get into groups, so I want to do that before we do anything else. So get ready for that. No, not right now. I want to, by the way, remember I am filming all this, so like, if you do hate anything, just keep it to yourself. All right, so what we're going to do, yeah, I'm going to have to print out, I did, yeah. All right, so group 1 is right here. Group 2 is right over here. Group 3 is back in the corner. This is group 4, this is group 5. So go ahead and get in those groups. All right, so, get in our groups.
Are we going to use a new group?
No, this is your group.
But it just refreshed.
Did it refresh? Whatever group it was at the beginning. Sorry, I didn't know it was going to refresh. Are we good on that? Okay. So, first thing I want to talk about is who's done any of the reading. And it doesn't matter, this is not like trying to get you in trouble. I know we're like a day into this, so who's done any of the reading? All right, tell me what you know so far. What have we learned? A little loud.
Had like a lot of like rules and laws that made like whites more dominant than Africans.
Yeah, so white minority rule. Wiley?
Britain didn't like directly govern it, and they like gave it to a private company to come in and to exploit everything there.
charter company.
Founded by British explorer and Cecil Rhodes.
Famous bastard Cecil Rhodes. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, which will be DSAC. That was
Mhm.
the company, the charter company that started Southern Rhodesia.
Mhm.
And also, there was like Northern Rhodesia, but wasn't part of it, and they were less racist because they didn't have the company.
Yeah. Northern Rhodesia is what will become Zambia. Yeah. So then, right now, because remember, we're not Zimbabwe right now. We're not even Rhodesia yet. We're Southern Rhodesia. So I can see that, some of you have gotten to where, some of the info, but really today we're going to kind of cover the origins too. So we're going to double up on a lot of the readings, and what I'm going to try to do is do a station-based thing today. And so, what I want to cover today is really the outcomes of colonialism, so the long-term impacts of this guy Cecil Rhodes, because he just has such a huge impact on Africa and Africans within Africa. And then we're going to see this rise of white minority rule that happens where you really start becoming South Rhodesian. Remember, there is like a little independence movement where Rhodesia breaks off independence, but I do not want you to think that's African independence. It's just a bunch of white people taking even more white control. Boom. Exactly. We're not going to get there today, but yes. And then we're going to start talking about the rise of nationalism in Zimbabwe, where we have like the ZAPU and the ZANU and these other groups and stuff like that that basically kind of start rising up to fight this this white minority rule. Where we're going is, and Mr. Perkins will be teaching this part of the unit really, but we're going to be talking more eventually. There's Rhodesian independence, which is not African independence. It's a bunch of whites that want to have more control. And Britain's actually kind of like the good guy for once, which is pretty rare. We're going to have a big old war, big old 15-year war. Thank you, Mr. Perkins. And then we have the creation of Zimbabwe and the rise of Mugabe, but that's later. So we already got our groups. So we're doing group station-based stuff today. You got your graphic organizer. This should have everything that you need on it. You might want to grab a piece of paper for notes, but I even left you a little section for notes, like where you're doing your readings and stuff like that. But the main thing is kind of like the order to all this. So we're going to have a video station up here on the Promethean. I got 3 little short videos, so 2.5 minutes each. And they're about Cecil Rhodes, and there's a little speech by Mugabe. I'm going to have groups 1 and 2 are going to be up here at first. You're going to have to double up. And you're normally, in a perfect world, you guys can watch YouTube on your Chromebooks, but we know you can't. So I'm going to have you come up here and watch them like this. And then, so that's groups 1 and 2. Groups 3 and 4 will be out in the hallway. That's where your timelines are. That's where maps and stuff are. You're going to be filling. So I would take a hard surface. That's why you're going to need this, hard writing surface. Group 4 is going to be starting with the readings. The readings are going to be on these 2 desks back here. The cartoons are going to be on these desks. And I'll set that up for you. Don't worry about it. But I don't want to take have anyone on the cartoons at first, because really the cartoon section is really just a discussion section, where I want you to look at the cartoon first. So like a lot of people in the previous period were just like, because I want you to analyze these and like talk about them, they were just like looking at it for like a second, being like, oh, I think this is what it means. Take like a minute to kind of like think critically. There's no right or wrong answer for political cartoons. I don't even know what some of this stuff means. Because there's no one out there writing like a clear like, well, this little guy is in the corner because of this. Just kind of use your critical thinking brains, and I just want you to talk about it. But that's not going to take the whole time. So there's going to be time during the cartoon section where you can fill out the section for the reading that you're probably not going to have time for, which is this whole summary. The reading part is going to be the toughest of time, because the video, it's like a certain amount of time. The cartoons don't take that long. The hallway stuff. The reading, you're probably not going to get through the whole thing. That's okay. Just do as best you can, read as fast as you can, and that'll be fine. And then we can also post these. So if you want to read this stuff later, you can. Also, we also have that huge 65-page reading. That should cover all of this stuff. I haven't done that whole reading myself, so I'm not sure what that covers, but it should cover everything. So as of right now, what we got is groups 1 and 2. I'm going to get you on the board. Groups 3 and 4, I'm going to get you out in the hallway. Group 5, you're going to go back to my reading desk. Do we have any questions? No? All right, so let's get started. Let's get into the spots, and then I'm going to get started. We're going to have 10 minutes each section. So if you get to 10 minutes and you're still talking, I appreciate it, but you went a little too slow. If you get to 5 minutes and you're not doing anything, you went a little too fast. So for the video people, I'm going to need a master of the video. And it might be me too. Where basically someone's going to have to pause it and move it around. I'll be around for this, and then you can move over the screens and stuff like that. So let's break 1 and 2 over here. Group 3 and 4, you can go down to the hallway. Yeah, probably be a little bit closer. So I'm not going to have the volume on. I'm giving you the readings. I'm bringing them over.
I love
Hello. No, they're kind of long, so you probably won't get through the readings. Yeah, they're long, but you're going to get through it. Okay, cool. We're going to start the videos. You ready? Yeah, you can sit if you want. Honestly, yeah, I just wanted because this is the only way to get videos for a part of you at a time. So let me turn this off.
Cecil Rhodes, one of the most controversial figures of Britain's imperial age. Rhodes the colonial believed in primacy of the Anglo-Saxon race over all others, particularly the black Africans he ruled.
Alright, you don't have much time, so make sure you're reading.
But the Wealthy Benefactors Foundation still brings students from around the world to study at Oxford. It's unsurprisingly a conflict for South African Rhodes scholar.
I'll turn it down a little bit.
For many, many years, the Rhodes Scholarship was awarded to white men, essentially the work and forced labor of black people, sponsoring the education of white men to further colonize and neo-colonize the rest of the world.
Black Lives Matter has re-energized the Rhodes Must Fall campaign, begun in 2015, inspired by protesters in South Africa. A statement from Oriel College says, "We believe Black Lives Matter and support the right to peaceful protest. As a college, we continue to debate and discuss the issues raised by the presence on our site of examples of contested heritage relating to Cecil Rhodes. But the current mood is building pressure. Oxford City's council leader recommends Oriel submit a planning application to remove the statue." Elsewhere, pressure has already led to action. In Bristol over the weekend, protesters tore down a statue of slave trader Edward Fulton and threw him in the river. London authorities removed slave owner Robert Milligan from his print in the Docklands on Tuesday. Previously protected symbols of Britain's racist and imperial past are becoming intolerable.
Every country really has sort of national myths and kind of nationalist sense of its past. And Britain, perhaps in that respect, is no different, but does of course have a unique situation in terms of the British Empire, such a large empire running for such a long time.
The death of George Floyd is changing the way many countries look at history and race. So different places, different figures. In Oxford, it's Cecil Rhodes. In Bristol, it was Edward Colston. In Belgium, it's King Leopold. In the United States, it's Robert E. Lee. But the principle is universal, and it's been given extra fire by Black Lives Matter. Historical figures of white supremacy, they say, should no longer be given supreme positions in our towns and our cities.
It was from
Alright. And then if you hit that little bottom, that button at the bottom, sorry, or Wiley. Yeah.
like the money they made off the money they got.
Then you start that one.
It's a sacred hill where for centuries Zimbabweans go to consult their ancestors. It's also where the notorious British colonizer Cecil Rhodes chose to be his final resting place. Often described as a philanthropist, Rhodes dreamt of a British Africa from Cape Town to Cairo, with lessons of Queen Victoria.
Well, I don't think history should be tampered with. It's history, and he requested to be here, so I think that's where we should stay.
Part of the land grab, later named Rhodesia in his honor, included modern Zambia and Zimbabwe. The younger generation wants its remains removed to rid the country of the last vestige of colonialism.
He chooses to go where we talk to our creator and bury himself there. It was more like a spiritual colonization, which is a great insult to any sane Zimbabwean.
First and foremost, Matopo in itself is such a beautiful landscape. It doesn't need this colonial grave, honestly.
But the grave attracts tourists to bring much needed income for surrounding villages, and many local people oppose any exhumation. For us, Rose Grave is very important to us. In that visitors see our arts and crafts, and they buy from us, and we get some money to send our kids to school, and also to get some food and clothing. The white supremacists died more than 120 years ago in South Africa, aged 48, after clearing out swathe of territory for British Empire. This grave is not a problem for us. We have our sacred places in the vicinity that allows us to exchange with our ancestors, and basically, these visitors who have come from far away also come to talk to the ancestor. In neighboring South Africa, students at the University of Cape Town launched a Rhodes Must Fall protest in 2015, initially to pull down Rhodes' statue in the campus.
All right, that's good job. This guy will be a big thing throughout this unit, so pay attention to this.
We are totally opposed to the concept of multiracial because it assumes in the first instance that the people have got to be arranged in compartments based on color. You have Europeans in one compartment, Asians and colors in two other compartments, and the Africans in another compartment. And immediately you talk of multiracialism, you are accepting as a starting point that the races are different, and this difference must be recognized. We are non-racialists in our approach. That is, we regard as an individual as an individual, and that everybody must be accorded his full political rights, whether he be white or black, educated or uneducated, rich or poor. And this is exactly why we are at the moment struggling to earn for our people one man, one vote.
Partnership and multiracialism were first mentioned in 1953. Desegregation of Salisbury's first bar took place 3 months ago. It's not quite apartheid, but the races are separated by legislation. This is Harare African Township, and if you are an African, you live in a township, unless you're a houseboy and have your own private hut at the bottom of somebody's garden. The government says the basis of true partnership is education. So far, not a single school in southern Rhodesia in the entire federation has been integrated. And the government says officially that there's no prospect of it in the immediate future. African education remains a hodgepodge of mission schools and government schools with incredibly low standards. An African can teach in one of his own primary schools with a grade 8 certificate. The number of Africans who pass their high school entrance exam is low. Yet in African high schools, there is desk space for only 1 out of every 16 children who reach high school level. But more and more schools are being built, teachers trained, housing improved, but all within the African townships. A multiracial society was one of the things forecast in the federal constitution 8 years ago. So far, many government officials admit there is very little evidence of it.
All right, use this time to work on your questions. We're going to move in a second.
Non-racialist being
I got that. No creative.
Ian Smith. No, I know that.
No, we actually don't. That's the volume. There's correct on I just remember I was in my contract.
Okay. Let's go ahead and rotate. So you guys are now going to be out in the hallway. Come on this way.
Oh, we still need to clip.
Oh, I wasn't trying to do that. I was literally just trying, but I appreciate you. All right, readers, I know it's short on time. You guys are going to rotate to the cartoon section. You guys are going to go back to the two desks, two tables that have the readings. Okay, so you guys are cartoon readers. I only got one station of cartoon readers right now. Readers, you're going to have the toughest time here. The readings are kind of long and we don't have short time. So I would just keep your notes quick and just read as quickly as you can, but it's okay if you don't finish. All right, and go. Oh, I got extra readings, yeah. Couple or just one?
No, just one.
Okay. If you want to do multiple readings, that's fine. So you guys are just, take a second to look at these and just kind of like, just use your brains to kind of put together your maybe a meeting behind them. But there's no real direct, there's no section right now. It's just discussion. Yeah, this is just discussion. So you'll see them right here. Kind of the guidelines of just, yeah, just it's open-ended. There's no right or wrong answers. You can also do this one if you want. And then whatever extra time you have, use that to work on your summaries. All right, you're good. Go.
Yeah, this guy was yes, he shot it. I believe it was. How do you know that? Because I read it. Maybe the text.
Maybe the 11.
No, not particularly. Oh.
So it's like saying
People
or like
people hold on to these symbols and venerate them. In truthfulness, are his spirits.
Wait, go. Where you going?
This is the leader of the region. Okay, so yeah, the leader of the region.
there was an article today about how China's like consolidating its mineral rights in Africa.
Right, well, they've been doing it since they've been putting in mineral since the 70s.
Yeah.
You just find a common spread to prop up proxies around the world. And the Chinese really do that.
Well, for Zimbabwe, there's a bunch of lithium. And so China's building roads and stuff like that in exchange for these lithium rights. Which you see, I can't remember which colony it is, but they basically get all of their uranium from one of their old French colonies, and they make it so that they can't really sell it to anyone else. So they're just basically eliminating. Angola or something like that? I can't remember, but
Angola was Portuguese.
Okay, then I can't remember, but like they basically get all of their uranium from this country because they can't sell it.
I forget which one, but it's an old idea that I use when I go footage or film. I pick out which groups were realist and which were not. Flash icon pretty easily.
We need to play Hearthstone.
I'm trying to get into art levels because it's nothing but slum.
Alright, we got about 2.5 more minutes, so you guys, your cartoon station, make sure you're working on your little summaries. I just want you to know so that when you, because we're going to get together at the end and you're going to teach your classmates, so I just want to make sure that you have stuff for that. About your art, not about everything, just your art.
The British South African company was the one that
The BASC was the one, yeah, that eventually broke off. And yeah, that was the right memory.
Southern.
Rhodesia eventually, the Southern Rhodesia first, then Rhodesia, and Zimbabwe.
I really think it's interesting. I really think there's some deep dive in how communities that result in having accidents of soldiers moving to South Africa. Zero in racist population,
The other.
yeah. Well, and there were even like American volunteers in the bushwar, like a whole.
That was like in Blood Now, the American Hackers characters, I think they called it Bushwar.
Yeah. No, but Logan Eagles, they were ex-US Army from like Vietnam and Korea. Who just, you guys wanna learn how to Oh, sure. There were multiple high-ranking IDF guys who were like SS.
Kind of like what he was talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had
Weird. Alright, 30 seconds, we're going to rotate again. Alright, we got 30 seconds out here, and then you guys are going to rotate. Let's just leave them divvied up around the All right, reading folks, let's transition. Leave your readings here. Let's transition to the cartoons area. You guys are up on videos.
Yeah, mine actually, mine was just like.
All right, come on in. All right, we got 2 more stations, then you guys got lunchtime. All right, so guys who just came in the hallway, you are in the back desk, you are reading. All right, video folks, all 4 of you.
I feel like it was someone that like longer around school. Oh, we don't have to do it. Do we have to write?
No, the cartoons, guys, this is just discussion. So you don't have to write anything, but take a second to look at your cartoon and like think about it. You know, don't just like shoot from the hip. Take a second to think about it, but it won't take you that long to discuss it. And I want you to use the rest of that time to work on your summaries that from your reading. All right, let's go ahead and get started.
In the world-famous university city of Oxford,
So yeah, take a minute to look at them, and then you guys can just start your discussion whenever you're ready.
looking down on the facade of
Ian Smith,
Oxford Road, one of the most controversial figures of Britain's period.
And Dylan Stormroof, Matt Shooter.
Those the colonial believed in the primacy of the Anglo-Saxon race over all others, particularly the blacks.
Hard to get.
That's like a puppet.
They're holding their influence over.
And you can almost say that. So
But the work of the Capcut's foundation still brings students from around the world to study the
reference to this.
5-year conflict, the South African Rhodes Scholar,
Many years the Rhodes Scholarship was awarded to essentially
I think it's being a puppet.
This is really Black Lives Matter has re-energized
I wonder if like in like 20 years they'll be like the cartoon like
inspired by protesters in South Africa.
another
A
one.
statement of Royal College says we believe Black Lives Matter and support the rights of peaceful protest.
What is this very different? Tell
It's
us.
pretty recent. So like one of the
Examples of
infographics.
protested heritage relating to
Wait,
protested
Joey, you're
roads.
great.
The current move is
No, only because I'm the first person on the list. So mine
Think
could
about
be
that in terms
switched.
of modern.
So they did it all wrong.
Materials in these countries would probably.
And on my thing it's setting on 89, but on my thing it's setting on 89.
proven in the river. In London, authorities removed slave owner Robert Milligan and his participants in a document on Tuesday. Previously protected symbols of Britain's racist and imperial past are becoming intolerable.
The or is a lot smaller, so maybe you can't see it as well.
The death of George Floyd is changing the way many countries look at history and race.
I don't know what
That guy's different figures. In Oxford, it was
That is.
in Bristol, it was Everett Colston. In Belgium, it's the
little
in the
guy.
United States, it's Robert E. Lee. But the principle is universal. It's been given up to fire by Black Lives Matter.
like there was a bigger like population, but like the white people had more say. They didn't have as much power.
It's a sacred hill where for centuries the Japanese schools resolved their ancestors. It's also where the notorious British colonizer Sausage and Rhodes chose to be his final resting place. Often described as a philanthropist, Rhodes dreamt of the British Africa from Cape Town to Cairo, the blessings of Queen Victoria.
Always does.
Well, I don't think history should be tampered with. It's history and he requested to be here, so I think that's where he should stay.
Titled the land grab, later named Rhodesia in his honor, included northern Zambia and Zimbabwe. The younger generation wants his remains removed to read the country of the last of his initial colonialism.
Really felt was created and enjoying himself there. You know, it was more like a spiritual colonization, which is a great insight to any sin in Zimbabwe.
But the one with my cocoa in itself is like
Don't discuss it yet.
It doesn't need
Discuss it.
this colonial face. Honestly,
The program attracts tourists who bring much needed income for surrounding villages, and many local people oppose any exhibition.
Did you see all the Confederate flags we were driving back?
From where?
We were driving back from St. George in like the middle of nowhere for hours, and it was just a Confederate flag after Confederate.
Charleston's from the Pacific Northwest, so like. All right, so use this time now to work on this stuff. Some
white
people like
supremacists died more than 120 people in South Africa aged 48 after Freeman's
I don't know how much I can
trial for British Empire.
I don't hold to.
We have our sacred places in the vicinity that allows us to exchange with our ancestors. And basically,
Wait, do we have to write it?
visitors who are
Where do we write it?
I would write it so you remember
When are we teaching?
after lunch.
Oh.
Yeah, we're gonna all, like, the fifth station will be you just getting back together as a group.
was protest in 2015, initially to pull down one statue in the campus.
Maybe it's just how it's.
Well, we'll discuss that later. Let's write the summary.
Because it assumes
I wrote my summary like here.
that
If you can think you can read off your notes, just make sure it's like a teachable way, so that like you're not just like reading a little bit. But
two other compartments and the Africans in another compartment. And immediately you talk of multiracialism, you are positioning at the starting point that the races are different, and this difference must be recognized. We are non-racialists in our approach. That is, we regard as an individual as an individual, and that everybody must be accorded his full political rights, whether he be white or black, educated or uneducated, rich or poor. And this is exactly why we are at the moment to earn for our people one man, one vote.
Partnership and motivation were first mentioned in 1953.
Rodesha. That just sounds like a name.
Desegregation of Salisbury's first bar took place 3 months ago. It's not quite apartheid, but the races are separated by legislation. This is Prairie African Township. If you are an African, you live in a township.
And they wanted land just
Unless
for
you're a
Europeans
houseboy
to not
and have your
share.
own private house at the bottom of somebody's garden. The government says the basis of true partnership is education. So far, not a single school in 7 years in the entire federation has been integrated.
And the
The
land
government
of
says
they have
officially that there is
divided
no
the
prospect of
land by
it in the
race.
immediate future.
50-50.
African education remains a hodgepodge of mission
Not really.
schools and government schools with incredibly low standards. An African can teach in one of his own primary schools with a grade 8 certificate. The number of Africans who pass their high school entrance exam is low. Yet in African high schools, there is desk space for only 1 out of every 16 children who reach high school level. But more and more schools are being built, teachers trained, housing improved, but all within the African township.
I'm really confused about review.
A multiracial society was one of the things forecast in the federal constitution 8 years ago. So far, many government officials admit there is very little evidence.
Is it Bobways or did you put
Alright, you guys got 2 minutes, so just work on those questions for now, and we're gonna rotate once more.
I gotta wait.
It is 12:32. Yes. Alright, we got another little under 2 minutes, so just keep working on what you're working on. This is really time for the readers, because that takes the most time.
I need it.
You need what?
I didn't get any of the
I should read right now. Oh, and what is this? Wait, you're down?
I got one of the heavy. Let's go look at the last video.
Yeah, help them out, help them out.
I mean, I got baby salad.
Readers, who's almost done? Sort of. We need another minute. Okay.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It was open to shop before lunch, and it was like,
White man knows more.
I wish I could like work this out.
So it sounds
It's like an
like
easy
easier
job.
after like the chart.
Yeah, okay.
They declare like
Yeah.
they're still like early 60s. When they basically eventually
I just had to start saying like the color so they understand.
Our majority rules of class, they fully declare independence, and then their covered beach up, and then the big old border, and then eventually after that war. Bob Wade's gonna be like 79. Later on, past year. What cartoon was our favorite? You know who the guy in the corner was?
No, I don't.
I'm pretty positive it's right. I don't know what the little guy in the corner, and then I don't know what that guy is. I don't know. Yeah, that's the problem about political cartoons, is no one really tells you anything. So, all right, let's rotate. We got one more before lunch. You guys are in the hallway. You guys are on videos. Readers, you're going to come up with your cartoons. Leave everything. Leave all the stuff, the reading stuff, where it is, please. Yeah. Well, there's some notes. It's always basic, but it's really just honestly questions to make sure you're paying attention, as long as you are. I was going to make them more complex, but all right. We'll go ahead and start the timer.
Take it down, put it in a museum. In the world famous university city of Oxford, anger at big statues of Lee Kindle.
Yeah, you guys are just, the cartoon section is just discussion, really. You're not writing anything down. Take a minute to look at them first. Take a minute to look at your cartoons first and gather what you think they mean. There's no right or wrong answers though. Then go over.
Believed in the primacy of the Anglo-Saxon race over all others, particularly the black Africans who ruled over them. But the working Democratic Foundation still brings students from around the world to study at Oxford. Unsurprisingly, a conflict, the South African Rhodes Scholar,
For many years, the Rhodes Scholarship was awarded to white men who essentially work and forced labor sponsored education for white men to further colonize and decolonize.
Pretty sure that's right.
It's just very.
It's really hard to find these are all
begun in 2015, inspired by protesters in South Africa.
It's just like a
A statement
yeah,
from
like those are all flags that are going to be like racist.
At a college, we continue to debate and discuss issues.
Take a second and then start discussing kind of what you think the meaning is behind it. Did you not have one?
No, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's really connecting them, but it's just explaining how people portray these racist things.
Pressure has already led to a culture.
Commentary on it. That's what I
trainer Edward Colston was proven in the rock. In London, authorities removed slave owner Robert Milligan from his pin in the documents on Tuesday. Previously protected symbols of Britain's racist and imperial past are becoming intolerable.
Every country really has sort of national myths and kind of nationalist senses. And Britain,
You're on it.
in that respect, is
You're on
no
it.
different. It does have a certain situation in terms of British Empire, such as
Talk about it.
The death of
I get discussion. I didn't hear a single word out.
many countries look at history of the race.
looks like.
Once you're done discussing it, start working on your summaries from your reading. Thank you, Video Master.
It's a sacred hill where for centuries Zimbabweans go to consult their ancestors. It's also where the notorious British colonizer Association Rhodes chose to be its final resting place. Often described as a philanthropist, Rhodes dreamt of a British Africa from Cape Town to Cairo, the presence of Queen Victoria.
Well, I don't think history should be tampered with. It's history and he requested to be here, so I think that's where he should stay.
After the land grab, later named Rhodesia in Islam, included modern Zambia and Zimbabwe, the younger generation wants its remains removed to rid the country of the risks of the last vestige of Europeanism.
He chooses to go where we talk to our creator and bury himself there. You know, it was more like a spiritual colonization, which is a great insult to any sins around him.
First and foremost, Matoko in itself is such a beautiful landscape. It doesn't need this colonial grave, honestly.
But the grave attracts tourists who bring imaginary income for surrounding villages, so many locals oppose any exhumation. Crossroads brings various countries. In that visitors see our arts and crafts, they buy from us and we get some money to send their kids to school, and also to get some food and clothing.
He was really deep about
The white supremacist died more than 120 years ago in South Africa, aged 48, after clearing out swathes of territory for British Empire. This grave is not a problem for us. We have our sacred places in the vicinity that allows us to exchange with our ancestors. And basically, these visitors who are comfortable also come to talk to
Make sure you're working on, like, because you're going to teach each other.
The labour in South Africa students at the University of Cape Town launched a Roads Must Fall protest in 2015, initially to pull down roads scattered in the campus.
All right, one more of these. Alex, can you switch that?
The Zimbabwe African People Union.
Well, we are totally opposed to the concept of multiracial because it assumes in the first instance that the people are going to be arranged in compartments based on color. You have Europeans in one compartment, Asians and colors in two other compartments, and Africans in another compartment. And immediately you talk of multiracialism, you are accepting as a starting point that the races are different, and this difference must be recognized. We are non-racialists in our approach. That is, we regard as an individual as an individual, and that everybody must be accorded his full political rights, whether he be white or black, educated or uneducated, rich or poor. And this is exactly why we are at the moment struggling to earn for our people one man, one vote.
Partnership and multiracialism was first mentioned in 1953. Desegregation of Salisbury's first bar took place 3 months ago. It's not quite apartheid, but the races are separated by legislation. This is Harare African Township, and if you are an African, you live in a township, unless you're a houseboy and have your own private hut at the bottom of somebody's garden. The government says the basis of true partnership is education. So far, not a single school in Southern Rhodesia in the entire federation has been integrated. And the government says officially that there's no prospect of it in the immediate future. African education remains a hodgepodge of mission schools and government schools with incredibly low standards. An African can teach in one of his own primary schools with a grade 8 certificate. The number of Africans who pass their high school entrance exam is low. Yet in African high schools, there is desk space for only 1 out of every 16 children who reach high school level.
All right.
Well, they're children, so teachers trained, housing improved, but all within the African townships.
All right, we got a perfect amount of time to do our little group discussion before lunch. We got about 13 minutes. This will only take 10. So go ahead and get your groups, and which most of you already are. Get your groups, and then I want you to teach each other about your articles. This is where you're going to go over your summaries, your takeaways, and stuff like that. We should have enough time right before lunch. We'll finish this right up afterwards, and then we'll recap together. But take the next 10 minutes, 10, 11 minutes to teach your group. All right, do it number 1. just gonna do this till lunch.
Got it?
Talked about after that, like you said, like a lot of like dividing up the land and the applicants were like distributed land. And so because of that, there were a lot of national agreements like the South so also talked about that. And they fought back for like control of their land, and they eventually won. They were overpowered by the South.
We have 10 minutes, so just use that as your pacing.
Their leader, Mugabe, still had no power, and the whites were still stealing a lot of the land. Tried to make a fast track like ban program, but the UN and a lot of the international community they felt like it was unfairly.
I had reading number 2, and I just said, land rights were given to the smallest group that made up the population, which was the Europeans, and then native reserves were to restrict African residents to specific areas, and then because the Europeans just wanted land for themselves, and then there was a thing called the Morris-Brown Commission, and it asked tribes like their opinion on where they wanted to live, but when it actually got ratified, they didn't care, and they chose to separate the land however they wanted to. And then the Land Appointment Act divided the land by race, and they had 6 different areas they separated the land into. And then the maize control said that British had like a certain price they had to pay that stayed the same, and that but Africans were not eligible for price support, so their prices fluctuated a lot. And then the cattle levy act placed tax on cattle sold by Africans. The cattle levy placed tax on cattle sold by Africans.
Yeah, well, I remember I was working at Harley today that we called
Levy? Sorry.
20 minutes.
Kind of a revamp.
Well, what would you, maybe that should be maybe one more lesson. Right at the very probably. Alright, we'll discuss your article for now. Yes.
It was like, we were like reading architecture and he was in there.
So basically, like, railroad workers in Rhodesia wanted higher pay, more pay over time, and to be paid cash, not just from rations, because then they could like nationals when they got paid. And so they had like striked and like wrote a bunch of like letters to the railways. And then the pilots like responded to were like, and then Rhodesia Railways claimed that they did improve their pay on September 12th, 1945, but all of the black employees said that they weren't like allowed this change and they had
Did you do it?
So then,
Lauren did. Like, a lot of people made it like they lived, but like, a lot of people did not make it to the top yet.
they actually did a lot. Even though the test was
Rhodesia front.
it was members that I did this.
White farming community was like in response to the.
You guys go through all the articles?
We have one more.
Okay, just do one more.
We can just do 5 instead.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, the 4 spot was just because, I anticipated only groups of 5 originally, so if you're the 6th person. For this one, where you only have like 4 spots. Obviously.
Nobody in our group actually did.
Oh, good. Good.
When you look at it in logistics, it's not
social economic
that is
Oh, 51.
Get your phones for
Yeah,
lunch.
get your phones. We'll finish up this discussion right when we get back. If we need to, and then we'll just recap real quick. Thank you guys. Alright, we're going to recap real quick. So just pretend that we got back to lunch and we're going to spend the rest of class doing this. You're really focused and you're not going to be done in about 5 minutes. So, someone that did Article 1, tell me what you learned. Someone. I know at least 5 of you did. Who did Article? There we go.
What we learned?
Yeah, just summarize, just some takeaways from it.
It was talking about the long-term impacts of roads on Zimbabwe, on modern Zimbabwe, and it just went through the history of all of the stuff he enacted and all the changes that were made. But then one really interesting part was at the end. It talked about how they're currently trying to give land back to the native population to sort of counteract the stuff that he did, but it's getting mixed. Some people like it and some people are against it and saying that it's continuing the cycle of land censure.
Is that the one that mentions Trump at the end? Yeah, that he's the Trump administration's whatever. All right, Article 2. Who got it?
Article 2 is kind of about the land seizures and how when the company gave up control of assets with the
ASC?
And looked and saw all, and there was a report that would basically say we need to limit the amount of land the natives can buy and own because they wouldn't be able to compete with European farmers, which was kind of a weird reason, but it was the reason they used for the act in 1930, which gave 50% of the land to Europeans exclusively, and the 98% of the population that were native Africans was stuck in a third of the land. And how even after that, with all the good land being in the 50% that was given to Europeans, they only really built all-weather roads in the European-owned areas, and they instituted a rule where corn that was sold by Europeans had to be bought at a higher price than corn sold from Africans. There was also a bunch of taxes, like a cattle sales one, that were only put on African farmers and not European ones.
Inequality all around. Yeah, nice. I like that. Article 3. Going from this table. One of you did. None of you did Article 3? I guess we all mixed up groups. Who did Article 3? Pull up my docs.
Okay, so Article 3 was about a realization railroad company employees were supposed to be given a raise, but they weren't actually, and they were gonna change it all, and that some actually gave up. So they started having strikes, like worker strikes, and the strikes, there was multiple strikes, but like the company didn't really listen at all, it didn't care at first. But because of like how the strikes happened, it was kind of getting long. But it said like African affairs were established, but even though that was established, that all that asks that they were asking for were not all met.
Mhm.
So, and like that was different because the white employees like never had to deal with that.
Yeah, and then that article ends with basically there is a strike in 1948 too that I think you cover that was on that timeline out there. This is just kind of leading to that. So there are more worker strikes. They did get a raise in that, but it was still less than the poverty. So they got a raise, but it was, you know, a raise on barely anything. So they still were not making much. All right, Article 4. Who did it? Vincent, did you do it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Article 4.
Just gonna.
Article 4 mostly talks about consolidation of Southern Indonesia to a functional state rather than a company-owned, asset. But in totality, it was still just it was a company, but now they had political power and means to act upon its political interests.
Didn't even need the notes. Nice. Article 5, last one real quick.
It talks about how, like, the rise of the nationalism in Zimbabwe and how the Black Africans wanted to overturn the social, economic, and political order that the white minority government had put in place, and how the government wanted started asking for full political independence in the early 1960s, but Great Britain said that ending white rule was a prerequisite for them to grant them independence. But so there was a lot of white resistance to black rule because they wanted to keep the monopoly that they had over the arable land in the Africa.
Yeah. No matter what, like the word independence, I think sometimes people always think that it automatically means that like the good guys got the right stuff, but not like it. Their independence was they just wanted independence to have even more white minority rule. That's fine, right? That's fine. Okay. Did anyone get this cartoon, the Chinese one? Vincent.
The original lower cartoons of Cecil Rhodes standing over the territory that becomes Zambia and Zimbabwe. I think it's called the Great Conqueror. It's symbolic of his British expansion to Africa and Rhodes's, ultimate ambition to spread European influence in Africa. The one on top is more a modern commentary on Chinese influence in Africa.
Bingo. Yeah, China has a huge influence over Africa now. I was just reading an article earlier that they own something like 85% of the mineral rights or something like that that's taken out of Africa. So like lithium, gold, all these like things that like gallium, I think is one of all these random metals that I don't really know of, but and magnets and stuff like that. So yeah, China is, you could look at, we're talking imperialism, modern day China and Africa have that relationship. Okay, so I know there's a lot of moving parts to this. I wanted to try something ambitious. This was my last observation. I filmed my first observation with you guys, so I'm really glad that you guys got at least something out of it, or at least you hope you did. Good. All right. What do we want to do now? Chill. We're going to chill until he comes back and says something, but you guys can chill. Thank you so much.
Mr. Harvey loves you.
Oh. Let me get... I don't think he's going to use these tomorrow, but let's at least stack all the readings and the cartoons together. Yeah, but...